Hello, how are you? Good morning, let's get started actually. Good afternoon now. Let's begin with some information. The update. This is an update that's going to be quite extensive. So get ready. Get your coffee, your soda. If you're eating, enjoy your meal. We're here to keep you company with all the information. I estimate that this live stream is going to last over an hour. So, well, stay tuned because there's a lot of information coming. A big shout out to Marcella, Veronica, OFest, and the community. There's a lot to analyze today, a lot to see. There are images, well, a bit of everything. As you come in, go ahead and give it a like, share it. Whether you're watching live or later, I ask you to help us with that. If you share, if you like it, it's great for the channel so we can keep going. If you want to help more, a super chat or membership is also appreciated. Let's get to the details. What do you see in this image? Well, listen to this. Well, it's impressive. This is the moment when, according to reports and warnings, 7 Iraqi army soldiers lost their lives and 13 were injured. In the United States airstrike that hit a clinic and the engineering department at the Havia base in Ammar, keep in mind they are soldiers. From where? From Iraq? From Iraq? We're not talking about Iranian soldiers, but Iraqi soldiers who are not involved in the war. Obviously, in response to this, Iraq has already reacted. And they're telling the militias, yes, the pro-Iranian militias there, which, by the way, those pro-Iranian militias are Shiites and Christians, okay? I mean, it's a joint army, Shiites and Christians, who could now attack the United States from Iraq. Not only that, but Iraq also spoke to the United States ambassador and also to Iran. By the way, because Iran has also attacked, Iran has been attacked by the United States and has also been attacked by Iran. And obviously, they are upset with both countries. But that's an alliance that the United States cannot lose because obviously it's key. Also, well, these images are being shown. Let's say a hypothetical case in which Iran says, and I insist, that has not been confirmed. Keep that in mind. But the Iranians say that they had attacked the aircraft carrier United States ship Abraham Lincoln with a barrage of cruise missiles. It's possible that they did it, but it's very likely that the missiles didn't reach their target. Let's see what is said later on. The United States, but at first they claim to have at least fired in the direction of the Abraham Lincoln. It's a topic that obviously draws attention today. Also, well, the message given by Pedro Sanchez himself, the president of Spain, about this conflict is noteworthy. Let's listen.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think most citizens are right to ask this question. What is all this destruction serving for? What consequences has this first month of war had? And I think the data is very eloquent because there have already been almost 2,000 confirmed deaths, and there are probably 1,000 or thousands more unconfirmed. More than 4 million people displaced in Iran and Lebanon. An Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu emboldened, whose goal is to repeat in Lebanon the same destruction and suffering that was inflicted in Gaza. A response from the Iranian regime, cruel and illegal, to its neighboring countries, which of course we condemn and reject because one illegality cannot be answered with another illegality. About 12 billion euros or dollars rather of public money spent on military operations. A severe contraction of tourism, maritime trade, and global air traffic. A drastic increase in the price of hydrocarbons, fertilizers, helium, and essential raw materials for the proper functioning of the world economy and also for the food security of millions of people. And here in our country, diesel and gas have increased by 35% and 95% respectively. The IBEX 35, just to mention this example, has accumulated a 9% drop, which means that Spanish companies in just 1 month of conflict have lost more than 100 billion euros in less than a month.
Well, the data you provide about how this conflict has affected Spain is impressive. He also delivers a message from the spokesperson of the Revolutionary Guard who says the following. Let's listen. What does he say? Well, we'll see it right now because it's here. Let's see if we have it here somewhere. There it is. According to what has been observed, among these comments that the spokesperson himself has been making. Here it is. Now we'll play it. We'll play it right now, and then we'll talk about it.
Since all the United States bases in the region have been destroyed, the United States commanders and soldiers have fled and taken refuge in hideouts outside the bases. And we are looking for them. We ask the people of the countries in the region to report the whereabouts of these hideouts, and at the same time...
Well, just imagine. According to the Revolutionary Guard spokesperson, they claimed they would have destroyed the United States bases in the area, which obviously hasn't been the case. Although there have been attacks that have caused damage. And it's true that it's confirmed that at least some of the bases have been evacuated. In that sense, what this person is basically saying is that they want information about where these soldiers would be. It's a matter that would show what I've already mentioned to you. They're not looking to negotiate. On the contrary, they're actually aiming for the conflict to spread. And look, this is taking some really dramatic turns. For example, listen to what this person says. He's an Iraqi authority. Check out what Iraq says. It wasn't Iraq, it's not Iraq, it's not...
Los ataques militares llevados a cabo. It's Iraq. Y las graves violaciones a la soberanía iraquí. And the attack on the headquarters of the official security agencies, the Council has decided the following. First, it's Iraq. These are the military attacks carried out by fighter jets and drones, targeting security headquarters and formations. Officials of the Popular Mobilization Authority and other formations of our armed forces using all possible means in accordance with the principle of the right to respond and legitimate self-defense.
Pay attention to this topic. This is very important. What this person says, because look, let's see, he is referring to the fact that they were attacked. Yes, this comment he makes. The Iraqi armed forces, the National Army, have army on land, air, navy, and the Popular Mobilization Forces were also attacked. That's a Christian Shiite militia. Very interesting. It's a militia that was supposedly attacked, but there were also Iraqi military personnel there. The National Security Council will coordinate security and strategy, authorizing the Popular Mobilization Forces to respond to United States attacks after the recent bombings. Or could they attack Israel or the United States? Planes flying around there with Iraq's permission? That's what stands out. So basically, has an alliance fallen apart? What is it? Where's the conflict heading? Be careful with that topic. Let's move on to the next point.
Don't go too far, because you've already done it, and you've seen what has happened to you on all fronts, forgetting that we are the living people of Israel. While cowardly Iranian terrorism flees from facing the heroes on the battlefield, it targets civilians in Arad, Dimona, the south, in the Tel Aviv area, and in Jerusalem. This regime shows the whole world its moral failure and its military collapse. For 77 years, all the illusions of terrorism have crashed against the rock of our resistance, and these desperate attacks will be nothing more than another nail in the coffin of their decaying illusions. They launch missiles treacherously, and we respond justly and openly from the heart of the State of Israel. Strong, we say it clearly. We are still here, standing tall and victorious. They will not break our will or stop our advance until victory and the achievement of our goals.
He is Abichai Andrade. He is the spokesperson for the Israel Defense Forces, And well, he delivers this rather tough message too, assuring that they are not going to stop, that they are not going to surrender, and that they will keep moving forward. It's something that stands out. Usually Israel doesn't need to give a message like this. Normally they just provide information about what's happening. And this time, what stands out to me is that there's a need to clarify that things are going well. It makes you wonder why. Why do they need to clarify it when they normally don't? Well, it's a very curious message, honestly. Another thing that also stands out is what they warn about, that is, in the New York Times. Let's play a little bit, but before that, I'd like to comment on the following. This is a message from the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Qatar. Listen to what this person says. We've seen them here several times. Pay attention, okay?
Nothing. I think we've said it countless times. Iran has been here for millennia. The people of this region have been here for millennia. No one is going anywhere. Total annihilation is not an option. No people or country will disappear from existence because of the wish or whim of any political actor. We will live side by side, we will be neighbors for the future of humanity, and we have to find ways to live side by side. This is a very difficult time. Our country has been attacked. Our sovereignty has been attacked. We have seen the effects on our economy, on the daily lives of the people who live here, and we do not take it lightly, and we do not see the attacks on our sovereignty as something we can live with. This obviously living next to 90 million people in Iran, a proud people with whom we have shared the Gulf for, as I said, millennia, it will continue, and we will have to find a way to overcome this. This is a very difficult time, but we will find a way to move forward. And I must say here that our message was always for Iran. The fraternal relationship, the neighborly relationship between our peoples must be above any other political consideration. The fact that they decided to attack our country in this way does not show good neighborly relations, nor the essence of that fraternal relationship. But it's something for which we see no alternative in our region.
Well, he is the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Qatar who delivers this message, so saying, let's see. I mean, here we're not trying to annihilate or completely destroy each other, but clearly there's no good neighborliness. Well, that's pretty obvious, isn't it? Now, this is what the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, says about the issue of Iran. Let's listen.
I'm optimistic that'll happen. The deployment of troops is very different from having boots on the ground. We don't have troops on the ground. I don't think that's the intention, but I do think Iran should observe that deployment and take note of it. They have to reopen the strait. They have to be good neighbors with their Middle Eastern neighbors over there in the region. They can't have a nuclear warhead, they can't have that capability, and they can't declare war on the United States and Israel. That's what they did, decades ago. Our mission will be accomplished. I believe that will be resolved in a short period of time, and I know that's the intention of the administration and the Department of War. We have the largest and most powerful combat military force ever conceived in the history of planet Earth. It's an incredible power, an amazing power that we have and that we've used for good. We've done it here. That work is almost finished, and I believe it will be concluded soon.
Well, that's what Mayoson says, trusting that he says there won't be troops, or at least there aren't any, kind of implying that maybe there won't be any. That also, well, it draws attention because it's a message to Trump. I mean, he's basically telling the Republicans, we're going to support you. Up to a point, the limit is the troops. I mean, clearly, they don't want troops there. They wouldn't be justified, at least from the point of view of many Republicans. They have said it openly on several occasions. We'll see what happens later, but let's move on to other matters as well. By the way, there is a report from this individual, the spokesperson of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, in which Ebrahim Sofagari is this person. Sure, they reject the 15 points that Trump or the White House has given. They reject 14. Or basically, there are no possibilities for negotiation in that sense. Also, well, this image draws attention. This image is shared by Israel. I mean, it's an image in which they show well, these attacks that have been happening, security cameras show where there is a population and attacks fall nearby and where people are passing by, etc. To warn people to get into the shelters, a lot of people get complacent and don't go into the shelters, he says. Oh, that won't happen to me. The defense systems are in place, etc. And, well, they put, let's go to civilians. People walking with their dogs. This, that, at the moment when a drone or a missile is falling, etc. He says. The Israeli Home Front Command has released a video showing the impact of some explosions with flying debris and even a vehicle being thrown into the air. to emphasize the importance of taking shelter in protected areas at the moment the warning is given. So, well, another topic that also draws attention in these times of conflict. In the end, another thing that also stands out is this image. Are we going to listen to this? That? At night, if people start shouting things against the Iranian government, inside Iran, they start shouting, protesting from the buildings, from the windows. Yes, to shout that they are against the regime. The ones down there are in favor of the regime. They have the security and support of the Basij. That guy with the light is carrying some kind of rifle with a laser sight. And with that, he shoots at those who shout from the windows of the buildings, those who shout against the supreme leader. Yes, and this one, look, there he is. He has the laser sight. There's the laser sight. And so, whenever they hear or see someone coming out the window to shout against them, they literally attack them, they shoot at them. So, it's obviously an issue that has been drawing attention. It's one of the ways they operate. El régimen iraní. Attacking directly against residential apartments through the windows. It's an issue. Well, amazing. It's, a repressed way of controlling by force. An issue that, keeps happening. Let's move on to other matters. This image that has been published, this is by Mario Neuval, shows an alleged image where you can see a nearby attack, an Iranian missile that would be hitting near the Dimona nuclear plant. Yes? At the same time, you can see this being observed. This video, which supposedly would be the one, is the one that would show the attack that was attempted against Dimona, against this Israeli nuclear plant. At the same time, the Russians have been denouncing that there is an attack, or that there was another attempted attack against the nuclear plant that is inside Iran, in the south of Iran. We had mentioned it here before, the Bushehr nuclear plant. Let's see what the Organization of American States has to say as well. And let's also go to the map, not of the Bushehr nuclear plant, which we talked about yesterday. It's in the far south. And now White is telling the people that they have to, in case there is an attack, obviously trying not to scare the population, obviously. But by saying this, what about the Bushehr plant, where Russians work or where Russia provides technical assistance? In fact, it was the Russians who built this nuclear plant in Iran. If we take a step back, that Bushehr plant, and we'll talk in a moment about what the Russians have warned about in that area. By the way, here is Karg Island, which is the island that exports 90% of Iran's oil. Yes, it has also reportedly been attacked recently and is believed to be taken over by troops. That's one of the theories out there, and if we zoom out a bit more, we can see how close it is to Kuwait and other regions in the area, not just Saudi Arabia, but also Iran and Iraq. On this side, the Russian company that's in charge of managing this nuclear plant. It's called Rosatom, the very famous Rosatom, right? How are you? Or should I say, how are we doing? By the way, greetings, Eliseo. How have you been? Also, best wishes. Y gracias, ¿cómo andas? Enorme salud to your family. And look, the Russian company confirms, at least Rosatom says so, it is confirmed that there were impacts around the operational unit. For now, they assure that there are no reports of victims or serious damage to the nuclear facilities. Rosatom has practically decided to evacuate all the Russian technical staff, but there are some who are essential, who they can't remove from. Today, it was already confirmed that a projectile hit the facilities, but the plant continues to operate normally for now. The director of the OIA himself called for maximum restraint to avoid a nuclear disaster. The Bushehr plant has an operational reactor of 1000 megavolt or megawatt and omega or megawatt. I suppose, right? That must be it, and 2 more are under construction at this moment. The conflict is part of the offensive that, as we know, began on the 28th, not the 28th of February. One in the me, even day in.
Está cifrando el número de fallecidos en 1,500 personas.
Okay, the El doble de fallecidos, más o menos unas 3,000 personas. Step in. Otros asuntos también dentro de este conflicto. A moment ago, I showed you the report on how Iraq authorizes militias, pro-Iranian militias, to attack, giving them authority to attack United States or Israeli aircraft. The decision was made according to what they say, and we saw this a moment ago in this image, which honestly has surprised people, the image of this man. What details are known so far, aside from what we've already seen and what this person says? Doesn't he say that the decision was already made by the National Security Council after the bombings that left at least 15 fighters dead and 30 wounded? An image we saw at the beginning of this is an American plane that supposedly was one of the planes used to carry out the attack. Precisely on the 25th and the 24th, today and yesterday, shots were fired at Iraqis in that area. Iraqis who, according to Iran, are not involved in the conflict. The Iraqi army attributed the bombings to the United States and Israel, according to reports. This raises tensions to the maximum between the United States and Iraq, Iran's neighboring country. However, Iran later admitted that one of the attacks was theirs, meaning that one attack was by the United States and another attack was by Iran. To the same people, to the same group. That's why, today, it's noted that they spoke to both ambassadors. In other words, the government of Iraq speaks to the ambassador of Iran to scold them and to the ambassador of the United States to scold them. And they say, well, they can operate not only against the Iranians, but also against the United States and Israel. So, what now? It turns out that Iran, which is in the middle of everything, is going to attack in all directions. I mean, right? They, as an army, obviously don't want to get involved in the conflict themselves, but if these militias give them permission, so to speak, Iraq summons both ambassadors to deliver formal diplomatic protests. In addition, Baghdad files a complaint with the United Nations Security Council because it says there are violations of sovereignty by both sides. Well, those things are really unusual. Honestly, this is already reaching the level of strange things happening right now. And well, that's how intense it is. Now, this image we've been seeing here has also been observed. According to reports, this is a report that has been, let's see if we can do it. The explosions are tremendous, according to the Israeli Defense Forces. You can practically see it because of the smoke, and you can see a bit of the city inside those explosions, right? There were several waves of attacks from Israel towards Tehran, towards the capital. Again, the attacks were focused on strategic locations linked to the regime, right in the capital. Are these parts of the ongoing campaigns or waves that are happening in this conflict? Recent reports also indicate that these are in fact sustained attacks against missile systems, command centers, and the infrastructure of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard. That's the one they've also been talking about. Well, this image, let's see if I can put it here, this image. What we're seeing here would be preliminary reports that a power plant in Adera in Israel was attacked with missiles. This too, even though we have the image, we'll have to wait for more details to see what is known, but it's a report that has been circulating and, well, it draws attention. Let's see what can be confirmed about this topic. But look, several media outlets at the national and international level, and so on, have already been commenting on this. They claim that there was indeed an attack, but that there was no damage, that it was nearby. I mean, it was right next to the plant, the one we're seeing there, he says. The Israeli Electric Corporation stated that there was no damage to its infrastructure, that a ballistic missile fell nearby. At the scene. In the Adera area or at the Adera power plant? Let's go into the details of what is known so far, but be careful, they are bombing or at least trying to bomb. This power plant, it's not this one. Yes. This one. According to what the electric company reports, they stated that although they were attacked, the missile fell near the power plant and not inside the facilities. The company also made a clarification after the projectile hit this area where, by the way, the Orod Rabin power plant operates, one of Israel's main energy facilities. The attack is one of the most recent waves of Iranian ballistic missiles targeting Israeli infrastructure. So pay attention to that issue because it's heading back to the electricity topic again. Once again, they're going in that direction. And meanwhile, you might say, if things are going well, then oil prices should start going down. And for now, that doesn't seem to be happening. Oil is not only not below 100. No, we're already seeing that oil is, let's see, here on the screen, it's at $101, almost $102. It hasn't been possible, no matter how much effort they've made, no matter how many supposed negotiations they want to do, no matter how many reserves they release, they can't get the price below $100. This hasn't been achieved. There's already an update from Rafael Grossi, who is, as you know, the head of the International Atomic Energy Agency, which is a United Nations organization. And they say, well, he gives a piece of information that in theory should be given by Antonio Guterres. Does anyone remember who Antonio Guterres is? Because does he remember to begin with? Does Antonio Guterres remember that he is the Secretary General of the United Nations? In these almost months of war, does anyone know where he is? Has anyone seen any statements he has made? Honestly, he has made statements. Even the World Health Organization has made statements. I mean, he sends his spokespeople, I'm not saying he doesn't, and he posts some tweets here and there, about some serious topics. He should resign, thank you. I mean, Antonio Guterres, out of a little bit of dignity, if he has any left, should resign. No, I'm not saying he lacks good intentions, I just don't know what his intentions are. But honestly, if the United Nations is already weak by itself, I feel like he has made it even weaker. And I say this because when it was necessary for this director of the World Health Organization to show up, well, he would show up. He could be liked or disliked, that's up to each person, but at least he was there every day, everywhere, right? Literally, even when you're eating soup, he's there. And the director of the World Health Organization would show up when the pandemic was happening, but that's his job. I mean, it's not like he wouldn't show up, right? Rafael Grossi also shows up everywhere. Whenever there's a nuclear issue, he's there, he shows up, he shows up, he shows up. But Antonio Guterres should be there every day, appearing publicly and at least giving the impression that the United Nations exists, that it hasn't disappeared. Well, what does he say? Well, Rafael Grossi, look at the level of power vacuum there is in the United Nations, honestly, because Rafael Grossi is the one who ends up saying, hey, there are going to be negotiations, the United States, Iran, this coming weekend. That shouldn't be. Why is Rafael Grossi the one announcing this? I mean, we shouldn't be hearing it from him. We should be hearing it from Antonio Guterres himself, right? Well, thanks to Rafael Grossi for warning us. He confirmed that the United States and Iran are going to meet this weekend in Islamabad, Pakistan. Because there were many rumors claiming it was a lie or not true and that it would be indirect, well, indirect or not. The United States will be there and Iran will be there in Pakistan this weekend. They're going to meet. Now, what are they going to negotiate? Honestly, I don't think so. There are already reports that there's a lot of trust on that issue. The plan includes sanctions relief from the United States, a civilian nuclear operation, limits on the missile program, and security in the Strait of Hormuz. There are basically 15 points that we already discussed, which are the ones you'll see in the 14 out of the 15 points. Iran says it does not agree. At least it's hard to say Iran right now because they don't know who will lead, who will be in charge. Honestly, I think there are some who believe they're in charge. There are others who actually are in charge, and then there's the population that's there, fed up with all of this. The ones who run the security and the war part are obviously the Revolutionary Guard. They're probably the ones trying to be in charge. The part that handles the money, or at least most of the money, because that's how you operate, that's how you pay salaries, etc. Well, it's the politicians, but there's a problem because they're constantly clashing, so it's not clear who's really in charge. So. That's another point, another important issue as well. The plan not only includes sanctions, but also one of the most critical points is that it will exceed 400 kilograms of enriched uranium, well, 400 and something. There is also consideration of sending this uranium to a third country, rather than to the United States or Iran. That country would then hold the uranium. That enriched uranium is being considered to be transferred to a third country and diluted to reduce the nuclear risk. In other words, they lowered it from 60% to a lower percentage so that it can't be used for nuclear weapons. However, Iran keeps its nuclear technical capabilities intact, which maintains global tension. What the OIA says is that Iran keeps it intact. So, the main objective of this hasn't been achieved, which was to reduce nuclear capabilities, or is the OIA saying the nuclear capabilities are intact? At least with the information they have. That shouldn't please Trump much. Well, another thing that stands out is that there's, an emergency meeting, this in NATO, let's go with that. There have been several incidents in these last hours in NATO countries. If we go to this region, we have to remember that the Baltic countries have been with these countries that are right next to Russia, not exactly next to the Baltic Sea. So these countries have had several problems, not among themselves. But Estonia and Latvia experienced a kind of attack with Russian drones. They were hit by drones that entered their territory from Russia during the early morning. In Latvia, a foreign drone crossed the airspace and an explosion was heard near Kraslava, close to the border between Russia and Belarus. Later, authorities also found drone debris in another area in Latvia. In Estonia, another drone hit the chimney of a power plant. That is, to hit a power plant, it's not a coincidence. It's not like it's random. It's like the other day when a drone went off course to Ukraine, and they said, no, it just went off course. It landed over by a frozen lake and absolutely nothing happened. No, this drone from Russia to Latvia lands exactly on the chimney of a power plant. This isn't, it's too much of a coincidence for it to end up there. Later, authorities also found remains of another drone in Latvian territory, and in Estonia, as I said, at a power plant. Estonian authorities said that the drone was apparently headed somewhere else. But the investigations are still ongoing because they say it's too much of a coincidence that it hit that plant. The conflict escalated to such a level that NATO has now held an emergency meeting to see what they're going to do about this drone issue. So either we're seeing that this is a test to see how NATO reacts, right? But the conflict, at least from NATO's point of view, is in constant tension, not constant rapprochement with aircraft incursions. In this whole area of the Gulf of Finland, in this zone where suddenly these islands, at least some of them, belong either to Estonia or to Finland, right? And suddenly Russian planes fly over the islands, obviously triggering maximum alerts in all those areas. Now let's move on to other important matters as well. What happened in this case? It's my understanding that a supposed attack was launched. Let's see if we can show it here. There it is. Let's get closer. A supposed attack was launched in the Arabian Sea in this area. This is the Arabian Sea. This is where the aircraft carrier Abraham Lincoln is, and from here on this side all the way to Crete. Follow this route over here. Already near this route, here is where it is. The aircraft carrier, Gerald Ford, is the largest and most modern one ever built, along with its planes. Well, it's over here, to the south, apparently of Crete. That's where this aircraft carrier is located. Right now it's being cleaned. They're fixing it, because remember that part of the kitchen caught fire, and the fire spread quite a bit. So, the dormitories of hundreds of soldiers ended up burned. Not the soldiers, but the dormitories. So, besides that, the food supplies were already needed. They restocked them, so they're filling up with supplies, and so on, and so on. Well, that's one thing. but Abraham Lincoln is around these parts, the aircraft carrier. The Iranians claim, and we saw it at the beginning, not of the live broadcast, that supposedly they launched an attack against the aircraft carrier. Let's see what has been reported, right? Today, March 25th, the Iranian army claimed that a new cruise missile attack was launched against the aircraft carrier. The United States Abraham Lincoln, which is, as I mentioned, in this region, in the Arabian Sea. Why is it in this region and not in this area? Simply, you wouldn't put yourself somewhere you could be shot at, right? I mean, is the Persian Gulf too small for them to stay stationed there? They operate by relying on distance, on their long-range capabilities. That's why they create these kinds of strategies, with missiles that have much greater range than the enemy. Precisely so that they can't be attacked, but they can attack whenever they want. And that's, let's say, the part of the strategy so that they can't be attacked. The Public Relations Department of the Iranian Army reported through the Iranian Fars Agency that the missiles were specifically aimed at the United States ship. So far, the United States government has not issued any statement regarding this detail. They haven't said if they shot down the missiles, if the missiles missed, or if they were hit. So, what happened? There are no details at the moment, but it was reported that the United States aircraft carrier, the United States ship Gerald Ford, remains in Greece. But that's it. They haven't mentioned the Abraham Lincoln. I insist, they haven't said anything at all about the subject, at least as far as I've been able to see. No, well, later on, if there are any other details, we'll talk about them. Let's move on to other important matters as well. There's a report. This is about Iran, but it's related to something that China has been doing lately, which is, to report on how the situation is going, to report on the issue through their satellites. I mean, they've been giving details about what they're observing. I'm not sure if it's everything, but they've published at least some of it. It stands out since it's usually the opposite. Satellite report information usually comes from Western countries, but this time it's Asia, specifically China, that's reporting. There's a ship speeding across the ocean toward Iran, carrying United States troops. It says the following. The satellite images published by China reveal that the United States ship Tripoli warship is heading at full speed toward the Middle East. The ship has already been seen at Diego Garcia military base in the ocean, it stated. A base that you already know, right? You already know where it is. It's in this part of the world where you can see how, there's here, it's a little further down, this area, we'll leave it here. From here, it was detected that the ship is heading to Iran. The United States ship Tripoli, which we had already talked to you about a few days ago, the United States announced that they are going with troops. But I didn't know where they were going. Well, now we know where it is. It's in the Indian Ocean, heading toward the Arabian Sea. Yes, the United States ship Tripoli is an amphibious ship that carries 2,000 Marines. It carries F-35B planes, greatly increasing the United States military power in the region. Analysts indicate that the stop at Diego Garcia was to resupply before entering the combat zone. Another ship is also the United States ship San Diego, which is also heading to the Middle East. Another one, this one would carry about 1,000 extra soldiers, 1,000 Marines from the 82nd Airborne Division. This deployment also aims to have or generate more Marine presence in this area. Now, these are amphibious ships. They can get close to the coast and deploy the troops. In an invasion scenario, there are two theories. One is that they invade by air with paratroopers and take Kar Island, or that they go to some coast of the Strait of Hormuz. And from there, they move inland and operate with troops inside. That's basically the theory, and the thing is, both military experts in the United States and Europe, as well as even the Iranians, believe that's what's going to happen, so something else will probably happen. They aren't sure if everyone is wondering about the surprise, and it wouldn't be unusual if that happened. Rather, it's going to be something different that we can't imagine right now. I guess that's what I should do now. Iran continues to deny that there are direct or indirect negotiations. They say there is absolutely nothing, neither direct nor indirect, nor of any kind. There are some details I want to comment on about that topic before we move on to other matters about this conflict and other topics. Iran officially denied that there are direct or indirect negotiations. The Iranian ambassador to Pakistan, Reza Amini Mokaddam, stated that Tehran found out about those supposed negotiations. He learned from the media, which I wasn't aware of. People ask, when are we negotiating? But we didn't know either. That directly contradicts what President Trump has mentioned. He even mentioned that supposedly Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner, Jerry Vance, and Marco Rubio were involved in the negotiations. When they mentioned all those names, everyone was just like, here. Is everyone involved in the negotiations? Or do they want to participate in the negotiation? I mean, it was weird how he just dropped names. And it wasn't very clear what he meant by those negotiations. I mean, what are they negotiating here, supposedly? The 15 points they've mentioned, those, yes, the 15 points have been made public. That's why the Iranians know the 15 points, because, well, those 15 points are public. Let's move on to other important matters as well. This vessel we're seeing here, the 400, is a ship that Ukraine claims to have destroyed. This is a large Russian military ship that, according to what they show and report at least, would have been destroyed. The Arctic patrol ship, Purga, it's called Project 23550 of the Federal Security Service. Just when its construction was about to be finished, I mean the ship was about to set sail to leave with its construction already completed, well, that's how it ended up, all tilted, all destroyed. The Kremlin's Ministry of Defense confirmed that Russian territory was attacked during the night with a total of 386 drones. The ship was precisely at the shipyard in the port of Bymorka. The Ukrainian General Staff reported this Wednesday about a military operation in the Leningrad region where the patrol ship, also called the Icebreaker Grupa, was located. The Federal Security Service of Russia, the intelligence agency, stated that these ships can have both civilian and military functions. The Ukrainian authorities have not given more details about how this attack was planned. The only thing they have shown is how everything ended up tilted. There were supposedly a total of 386 drones, but only 56 were directed against the Leningrad region. The rest were in different locations. So we are seeing an increasingly surprising level of operation and drone launching capability from Ukraine towards Russia. So it's a very dramatic turn that's happening in that regard. Another topic that also draws attention is that more reports continue to be published about how the project is going. About this what they call the Walker S2, this, what's it called, robot, which, well, continues to attract attention. Let's go into the details of what has been observed about this robot, right? And why is it attracting so much attention right now when robotics is being so highly regarded? And where, well, everyone tries to sell you the idea that some are better than others. Look, is this the one we had seen before? Why? Because it's interesting, because from the start they work non-stop. I mean, they don't rest. They change the battery right there, or the same robot takes out the old battery and grabs another battery. Or they have an extra internal battery that allows them to make that change and it recharges automatically. They're not very fast. As you can see, it's changing the battery there and then it can keep working practically 24 hours. The condition I'm telling you about eliminates the barriers of robotics when it comes to charging. The robot is able to stay active continuously and decide its energy processes without needing intervention from a technician or a user. The energy autonomy of the Walker S2 eliminates that technical need. And, well, that's part of what has been showcased today. Also, speaking of robots, there's an image that has surprised people today, which is seeing the First Lady of the United States, Melania Trump. At this moment, with the participation of a robot, there we can see it. Yes, it is the first humanoid made in the United States. 100%, right? They say, well, that's what it is. It's part of what is being showcased today. And well, that's a moment when, if I'm not mistaken, it's the First Lady of France. I think that's who it is. See? Well, she appears at this moment. There she is, and there's Melania Trump going to greet Macron's wife, who is on her right, and we're seeing it. Now, well, let's listen to the moment when this robot started to speak.
Thank you, First Lady Melania Trump, for inviting me to the White House. It's an honor to attend Fostering the Future Together's Global Coalition's first meeting. I'm Figure 3, a humanoid built in the United States of America. I'm grateful to join this historic movement empowering children through technology and education. Welcome. Welcome, welcome, I am welcome.
He already started saying welcome in several languages. In Spanish, in Arabic, in French, in Portuguese, and many more languages. In Japanese too. Well, that's also part of what has been observed today. Well, it's good. That's what's being speculated right now in the United States, huh? I'm not sure what you think, since we've already seen plenty of robotics from other countries. I feel like maybe it wasn't the right time to show off. That's just how I feel. No, don't copy. I mean, look, the first thing I thought when I saw this was, look, it walks like Biden. I mean, is it like this? Really stiff, right? Really stiff, the robot? And then I see the comments. I just want you to see how it goes. How it's walking. You know how Biden used to walk. He didn't walk like this one. Or, well, in the first comments there, they're saying exactly that, right? They say, look, he walks like Biden. I mean, it's a comparison, right? Because right now you have too many comparisons with robots. Even there in the United States, I don't know why they chose this robot. We've seen robots that are much more agile. But, well, for some reason they chose this robot. And, well, there it is. They're showing off the first robot, as they say, completely made in the United States. Well, let's move on to other important matters. The report for day 26 of the war is already available. Regarding the missile launches, here we update from time to time how Iran's missile launches began. Well, this is the chart. Let's see if we can take a look at it. There it is. Just look. That's day 1, 350 missiles. Day 2, 175. That's from Iran firing towards Israel or towards countries in the Middle East. Yes, it's the number of missiles reported per day. Notice how it decreases, but at some point it stabilizes. Yes, around 40 or 50 from 20 to 40. We're not going to say there aren't days with fewer, but there are days that go over 40. So, more or less an average of about 25 or 30 missiles, I don't know, around that per day. It has stayed there, it has remained steady, it hasn't decreased. Seriously for the Iranians, right? And as for the drones, that's a completely different story. It started off very intense, but the drones don't stay above 50. In fact, look, in the last few days, they've stayed above 100. In fact, it's actually closer to 200 drones per day. What are drones? Do they often go in groups? So, that's the problem. Suddenly, these are drones that can reach a long distance, 1,000, even 2,000 kilometers. But at the same time, if 2 or 3 arrive, they destroy them. But if 20 or 30 drones keep coming, well, some end up causing damage. And that's the issue. So he made a large amount, but it's not until the 25th. The 26th is already an estimate. That's why it says estimate. There's no estimation of how much it's going to be. But anyway, the point is that it's still quite a lot, not quite acceptable, as you can see there in this graph. We're observing it there. Well, that's how it is. That's the situation. Let's move on to other matters, also important. This individual we're seeing here, He's the leader of Hezbollah, and he has been, they say, denouncing that there are plans, according to them, to create a greater Israel. In other words, to expand Israel. According to what is being suggested, it's because Israel, yesterday and the day before, has been reporting that they intend to, Israel intends to bring in more people, because right now there are already people in this area, in what is the border between Lebanon and Israel. So the idea would be to move up to a certain point, up to the Litani River, and have all of this controlled as a kind of security belt. This, at least for the leader of the group Chile, Ibanez Hezbollah, a group considered very radical. Naim Qasim denounced that they are trying to create what he called a greater Israel, which includes territory from Lebanon. And he said that his movement only has the option to confront these plans, or else hand over their land to the enemy, he says. It is no longer a secret that there is a dangerous Israeli-American project, Greater Israel, which is based on occupation and expansion. From the Euphrates River to the Nile, including Lebanon, denounces the Secretary General of Hezbollah in a statement. It has become clear that we have two options: to surrender and give up our land, dignity, sovereignty, and the future of the coming generations, or to face the inevitable confrontation and resist the occupation, to prevent him from reaching his goal, according to what this person says. Well, it's part, let's say, of what we're seeing in the reactions to these comments. What were you doing yesterday? The same Israel that said, well, they're going to operate in these areas, that they're going to advance in that region. It's obviously an important topic, but let's move on to other also interesting matters. It shows this image in which you can see Sarah Malucha. She has been formally enthroned as the Archbishop of Canterbury. She is the head of the Church of England, and she becomes the first woman to hold this position. In 1,400 years, she is Archbishop of Canterbury as the head of the Church of England. Well, it's obviously a very, very striking topic from the point of view of how a country or a religion is formed. In this case, well, that also draws a lot of attention. Let's move on to other important matters. But it is being reported that the United States and Israel have temporarily removed the map from the president of the Iranian parliament, Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf. This person right here, him, do you remember that they had put him there? Like possibly the one they were going to negotiate with, the one they could talk to in order to negotiate issues related to the conflict? They removed the Iranian Minister of Foreign Affairs, Abbas al-Ghachi. Also not to allow high-level conversations, according to what the Wall Street Journal reports. I mean, let's see. That's what they say? The United States and Israel temporarily removed the map of the Iranian parliament speaker, Mohammad Ghalibaf, to allow high-level conversations. Basically, well, the attention this move they make comes from the head of parliament and the Minister of Foreign Affairs. They're like the two main ones, right? The two characters, or rather the two of them. What I'm seeing is that they're being taken off the target list. They were on the list of people who were going to be eliminated, but now they're not going to eliminate them, thinking that they can talk with them, he says. They've been removed from the target list, yes, which basically means they're not going to kill them, right? Right? They're not going to talk to these two people. Obviously, they were also on the target list. They don't say anything. Also, UPS might still be on the list, so that's what's being reported, that's what's being said, but it's not official, because obviously the United States isn't going to say it like that. That's exactly what the Wall Street Journal says. Because they have direct reports, from within the United States government, and what they say is that for now they're already out. That's it. Let's say they won't shoot at these two individuals, thinking that maybe they can talk to them. That's not good. Something that was supposedly agreed upon with the United States and Israel, right? That's what was agreed. Well, this is obviously a very interesting matter. Let's move on to other important topics. That draw attention. This image or this graphic, This is what World of Statistics reports, where it shows which countries have the most artificial intelligence patents in the world. And look, there you'll find China, the United States. In fact, China is in first place, the United States is in second, South Korea, Germany, Japan, there's also Australia and France. But there are two surprises. At least for me, they're surprises, because I didn't imagine them at those levels, and I'm glad to see them. There's India too, which doesn't surprise me either, right? France, the United Kingdom, perfectly understandable, and then Mexico appears at number 10. I mean, it's number 10 on the list. The 10 countries with the most patents in the world, and yes, there's a world of difference between 57 patents and the 25,000 that China has, for example. But is what they do in other parts of the world really that much better? One thing that also stands out, and especially something to consider for those who aren't from Mexico, is that a good portion of engineers and inventors are well understood. And they go to the United States. I mean, they get taken there because they're offered better opportunities. So many of them go to work over there. I mean, many of the geniuses who come out of this country, they go to other countries, not just the United States, since sometimes there's more purchasing power elsewhere. They have to consider that, right? And they say, hey, if I go over there, I'll be able to prosper a little more. And many of them leave, they go, or are there more opportunities for development? But despite that, the number of artificial intelligence patents is still striking. That's where number 11 comes from. Next is Brazil, with 37, almost half of what Mexico proposes, and then other countries start to appear. Interesting. You see at least 2 Latin American countries, correct? And surely later we'll see Peru, Colombia, Argentina. But it's very interesting that technology is also being developed here in Latin America. If you notice, well, practically no countries like that appear. There are many from Europe. There's Germany, there's France, and the United Kingdom. Besides that, all the others are further down the list, right? So, well, obviously that topic stands out. Let's move on to other important matters as well. Actually, today they released this video. It's a video released by the Iranians, not the one they made with artificial intelligence, not the one they posted. Like all the wars or all the enemies that the United States has had at some point. The same Native Americans, the Japanese from Hiroshima and Nagasaki, they don't show them. There's this photo. Do you remember a very famous image of a child? And they make it intelligent. I mean, they make it a video, with artificial intelligence. And they show, well, a lot of the problems they've had with the Vietnamese, the Yemenis, the Iraqis themselves. I mean, there are the Yemenis. And at the end, I'm going to jump ahead a little. It's a bit long. They show Soleimani. Do you remember? Trump himself ordered to eliminate him. They show Ali Khamenei himself, and just look at how one comes out. An intercontinental missile, right? I mean, they're not supposed to have them, and then they show the missile, right? And then they show the missile going. And it reaches the United States and hits a Statue of Liberty. But the Statue of Liberty isn't the statue as we know it. Instead, they show it as a bull with horns. Just like that, no plan. Just like that, because they who always have that vibe, which is they're Germanic, not this. Well, they show this, right? And they show how they fall, like the Statue of Liberty, so to speak. It's like that. It's like what we did today. I mean, that's how we did it today. This kind of message, right? Really intense, honestly. I mean, right? Because on top of that, it's posted by accounts from the Iranian government. But, well, it's a conflict issue, and also these parts, this kind of thing. Just like here, you see a lot of memes. I mean, now you also see a lot of these kinds of videos. All right, let's go to the comments. Otherwise... How have you been? How's it going? It's great to see you. Greetings to the 539 people watching us live and to the community watching us later, who watch us. Well, that's it. So another day. Thank you so much for joining us, for spending this little while with us. Let's go to the comments because I'd like to know your opinions on how you see things. Well, there's a problem when we see that every day we're already thinking about Hopefully they haven't hit this nuclear plant. Hopefully not. Hopefully not. Well, if it's in the middle of nowhere, that's it. Because hopefully oil prices don't keep going up, and so on, and so on. I mean, it's serious. If we look at the graph, it shows that there is an attempt. Actually, this red line we see here was a huge effort to add to the reserves, to announce 1,000 things, to try to give, well, a bit of reassurance to the markets. No, but it doesn't reach 100%. Honestly, I don't know. No, the S&P 500 wasn't handled that badly today. Well, it's going down again now, but a while ago it was going up. It's just that, well, this changes. We're live. So a while ago it was around here. It was in the green. Now it's back in the red. So no, there's no positive sign. And look. Right now it's Wednesday. We're not on Wednesday. So on Friday, when the market closes and it's the first month of the conflict, we can give a pretty complete analysis of what the real trend is, beyond what people are saying, right? What is the trend? What things have more impact than others? Yesterday, you guys suggested here in the chat, what's up with the environmental issue? I thought it was better. There weren't many studies about it yet or anything. No, actually, there's quite a lot of information about it. A lot of international organizations are reporting all the environmental incidents that have happened. And what are its effects? In the short, medium, and long term? And it's surprising. That's a lot of serious effects, right? And the effect, well, according to these analysts, is that it's extensive, right? It's very, very long lasting, and that's how far it goes, right? The outlook isn't very good on the environmental side. Honestly, it's really bad, because besides, it's a consequence of the Ukraine-Russia war, right? That's another war, also very polluting, very polluting. So, yeah, wars have really tremendous effects. How many people are going to end up with cancer and respiratory problems in Iran? How many people? In the future, they don't realize it, but it's affecting a lot of citizens very badly. Even if they're evacuated and returned, the contamination won't just vanish, right? And it's going to continue, right? They say it will last for decades. I don't know. It's serious, he says. In the Ukraine war, the first warrior android has already appeared, according to the El Suelo Fatagon report. Yes, Martin. Well, it's not theirs. It's an American company, by the way. There are 3 warrior robots, 100% designed to operate as warriors, right? They announced it in Ukraine, but it's an American company. We already talked about it here. We already showed the robot, and they're only going to deploy 3 of them. In fact, there are practically no more. It's basically an experiment in conflict in the middle of a war, and they're going to be operating with Ukrainian units, with Ukrainian soldiers, and the soldier will be there with them, the robotic soldier, so to speak, right? So yes, they will officially be the first soldiers. They are already officially the first humanoid soldiers in a real conflict. So yes, Martin, it's intense. We mentioned it and it's already confirmed. I can't recall if it'll start with just 1 and then see how it goes. But from what I know, they only have 3. It's not like they're mass producing them yet. It's going to be like a test to see how it goes, right? Cheers. Martin is something else, he says. And well, other types of robots have been used a lot in this war. Robots that are more like artillery, like little carts. And they're automatic. They're not drones, they're robots. They move automatically and they're given the order like, look, you're going to operate and fire at certain points, and then they let them go. There's a case of one of these robots that was, I think it was 72 hours more or less, about 72 hours standing guard at the front. Alone, the robot, it controlled an entire front all by itself. Just think about that. Russia couldn't get through because this little robot wouldn't let them. It just wouldn't let them. And it would move to one side and then to the other. And it would start shooting over there and then it would go somewhere else. And that's how it was. That's how it went until I don't remember if it ran out of ammo or battery or whatever it was. And it went back, but it held its ground. That's the record we have right now. In robotics, there are robots with explosives, drones that are automated. In other words, flying robots, so to speak. So yeah, it's pretty intense, isn't it? Greetings, Martin, says Liceo. How have you been? Fernandez, very good. What's up? He says, I don't think it does much with fishing nets. He says, with fishing nets for catching fish, right? You say greetings. And the oil? Yeah, no, I actually found little information about that, although I did mention something. We did the broadcast at 5 in the morning, 5:15, 5:20, around that time. And yeah, well, that's what they were saying. I mean, the oil issue is something that's known to be having an impact, but there isn't much data. The complaint from these organizations is that Iran doesn't want to provide much information, so a lot of the data comes from what people report, from satellite images. So incidents are known about, right? So far they have confirmed 300 incidents inside Iran, 300 or 500, I don't remember exactly, and also, well, over 100 incidents outside of Iran. Environmental, right? Incidents. Counting the, what are they called? The spills, where they don't know, for example, how much oil has been spilled. What is the effect? I mean, there are even images of affected wildlife and plants. No, it's bad. That part is a mess, he says. He was saying that the robot that appears with Melania is the protocol one, like C3PO. Kind of dumb, unbearable. Yeah, just imagine, Beto, just imagine it's like C3PO. Because that's how it is. R2 is the small one, right? R2 is small and C3PO, of course. The golden one, of course. Yeah, just like that. I mean, I don't know what it's going to be, right? And if it's going to be some kind of assistant, I imagine something like that. Yeah, this one, and a lot of those robots, well, they're being tested. No, not really. Isn't it a bit behind? Do you remember what was said? Ormo said that in 2025 or last year, the humanoid robots from his company were going to be released en masse, and then he postponed it until 2027, right? I don't know how it's going right now. I mean, you can, as I understand it, place an order, like you can pay a bit and place an order or something like that. With that, companies can also gauge how much interest there is, right? And things like that, right? He says, let's see who else is around here, he says, really, if all the advancements, yes, so many advancements are because of war, right? War. And you know what else? Formula One races and those kinds of things. Another thing that also brings a lot of advancements is, for example, flights to space. I mean, what National Aeronautics and Space Administration does, what European Space Agency does, what, well, other space agencies do. People often criticize them, saying, why go to space when there's so much left to do on Earth, like exploring the ocean, yet they're already exploring space? Yes, it's true, we need to keep exploring the ocean, but we also need to explore space. And all of that has brought very significant advances, right? There's a list out there of all the inventions that have been made just by going to space, just because of, for example, the moon program. The trip to the moon generated tons of patents. Even the pen. You know, I don't know if you remember this little pen that you can write with. It's bent over and it keeps writing, right? The ink isn't affected by gravity. Even things like that were invented because of it, right? He says, I hope robots come out there already, not people. I hope robots come out there already, not people. To war. No, I mean like war, right? Yes, exactly like war. Exactly. Which were robot wars, not this. Good point there. Marcella, greetings. He says, baby comment. He says, today I'm celebrating, just like every year. And yes, I know, you too, Ofe, you have your birthday around the same time. He's talking to him there. By the way, I'll give him a call in a bit, but, well, he's my younger brother. I'm 9 years older than him, my youngest brother. And, well, I'll have to call him later. Since it's during the week, as adults, we don't even see each other, right? I mean, as adults, and even less during the week. It's going to be more complicated to see if he's up for doing something over the weekend. We'll see later, he says. Greetings, OFE, and congratulations. A big hug for you too, of course. Happy birthday. And to the whole community that celebrates in March, that celebrates in spring, right? That's so cool, right? What a beautiful season for a birthday. He says, will the dead also be human beings? Yes, unfortunately, most likely yes. Tino, in case of a conflict, that's not what you mean, right? Greetings, Destino. How are you doing? He says, the jet engine, the missiles are there. He says, so yes, just imagine, right? So many things, right, haven't been developed because of conflicts. It's impressive because of conflicts and these kinds of situations, right? It's huge. Greetings, he says. Mercedes, how have you been? Mercedes Garces? Great, how are you doing? Carlos Rivera? Greetings to Guatemala as well. Fabricio, what's up? How are you? Fabricio, Mario Falcon, and greetings. Edilcia, what's up? How have you been? Look, well, there are several topics I want to talk about. We'll probably be updating them a little later. Topics to be confirmed that we just have to wait a little bit for, that's all. But the market closes, at least, in an hour or two, so I don't think it's going to close positive. I thought it would, when the stream started, it was positive. If it closes negative again, well, you start to realize how it's probably going to close on Friday. What could Trump say right now at this point that could calm things down? Or rather, is it going in the opposite direction? What the Minister of Foreign Affairs said, the one from Qatar. What this person from Iraq said, not talking about giving permission to attack if necessary. You say, is it already like a break in the relationship or the alliance, or was there one with Iraq? Careful, they're also not getting along with the Iranians. I mean, it's not like they're taking the Iranian side, because that's not the case either. They have issues, it's just that they're neighbors, right? That's the thing for them. And they have a significant group of Shiites inside. So, that too, well, I think that makes the Iraqis nervous. Not like the Arab countries, right, that have that issue. No. They don't want things to get too heated, because you need to be careful in this situation. This is about considering other levels. He says, here at the cafe, really good. At the cafe, he says, working and working. They're already leaving for school. Yes, they're coming right now for their coffee. The kids, that's really cool, Mercedes. Enjoy your coffee and keep going strong with the coffee business, right? Really good. That's great, says Martin. What's up with Cuba? Nothing changes, and I don't think it will anytime soon. The Trump trial, he says. Cheers, Martin. Who knows what'll happen with Cuba? Honestly, it's a complicated issue. 13K, how have you been? Great. Cheers. I'll pass along your congratulations, of course, he says. My wife is from March 10, but this year she spent it alone in Mexico City for work. Ah, Chihuahuas. Well, but you'll celebrate her later, right? Or not? No problem? Yeah, well, that's the adult thing. Right? Sometimes we have to, well, either not be there or not be able to do anything. But it's still unusual with the younger ones. Like, you just stop everything, right? But, well, this one is here, says Oscar. And decent people are looked at and treated with less respect. The righteous are belittled. They say to decency, I don't know you, it's brutal. I support idolatry and the idolater seeks punishment. I like it. Oh, I didn't understand, Oscar, but I send you greetings. Ah, it's further up, he tells me. Decent people are treated with... Wait, you're saying the same thing? I misunderstood. My friend, greetings, Oscar. How have you been? Says Martin. Poor people, he says. In Alfonsito's rebirth, he was born... What? Health. Ah, now I get it. Martin, Marcella, how are you? Well, for the community, a big greeting. Well, we'll be back in a little while, right? Let's see what else is happening in the world. Thank you so much for joining us. Well, there will be another update later. A big hug. We'll keep talking. See you later.